This message is produced by truthfromgod.com, which is one of hundreds of messages that can be read, heard, and watched at truthfromgod.com. The Order of Melchizedek is spoken of in just one place in the New Testament, which is in the book of Hebrews, but this is an explanation and elaboration of what is written in the Old Testament in two different places. For some unknown reason, the King James translator spelled the name Melchizedek two different ways in English. The variance occurs in the last part of the name. It is Zedek in the Old Testament and Sedec in the New Testament, but it is one and the same name. In this message, the Old Testament spelling will be used to avoid confusion, and also the real biblical name of God, Yahweh, of Jesus, Yahweh, and of God's children, Elohim, will be used. The correctness of these renderings from the ancient Paleo-Hebrew and Koine Greek is covered in detail in the message, Three Holy Names. There is power in them. The first place that the name Melchizedek is found in the Bible is in the 14th chapter of Genesis. This is about four kings who attacked and took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, along with many captives. One of these was Lot, Abraham's brother's son, who lived in Sodom and was taken, along with his family and all his goods. Abraham armed 318 of his trained servants and smote these invading kings, taking back all the goods and captives of Sodom and Gomorrah, and returned them to the king of Sodom, who went out to meet him. Abraham's only purpose in attacking and destroying the invading armies of these four kings was to liberate his nephew Lot, along with his family and goods. It is at this time that Abraham meets someone else, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he, Melchizedek, blessed him, Abraham, and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he, Abraham, gave him, Melchizedek, tithes of all. Genesis 14:18 through 20. The unique thing about Melchizedek was that he was a king and priest, and he is the only one in the Old Testament who held both positions at the same time. Melchizedek comes from a compound Hebrew word which means king of righteousness, and he was the king of Salem. The Hebrew word translated Salem means peace. By name and title, there is a duality of kingship, which is one of righteousness and one of peace. The New Testament affirms this by saying, Melchizedek, first being interpreted king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. Hebrews 7:2. There is also a duality of roles filled by this kingship, which is that of king and priest. He was just not a priest, but the priest of the Most High God. Use of the definite article, the, denotes singularity. According to the Scripture, Melchizedek was the only individual who was king priest And Abraham, the friend of God, readily gave such recognition by paying tithes of all to King Melchizedek. This is clearly pointed out in Hebrews 7:4 and 7. Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the tenth of the spoils, and without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. There is an order here with Melchizedek being higher than the friend of God Abraham. There's nothing known about Melchizedek's ancestry, family, descendants, birth, death, or age. No details about him are given except what appears in Genesis 14:18 through 20. This is pointed out in Hebrews 7:3. Melchizedek, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. Here is expressed an eternalness, like unto the Son of God, without beginning of days nor end of life. These previous verses also indicate Melchizedek's order of being as king priest above that of Abraham. Understand also how high Abraham is above all others, for not only was he the friend of God, but also it was to him that Yahweh God made everlasting covenants, which are given in Genesis 12:1 through 3, and 7, 13, 14 through 18, 15, 4 through 21, 17, 1 through 27. They were never disannulled, but are eternal and built upon throughout the Scriptures. It was to Abraham's son Isaac that Jacob would be born, whose name Yahweh changed to Israel. Genesis 32:28. He fathered 12 sons, whose descendants would become 12 tribes, and from these tribes came the nation of Israel, Yahweh God's chosen people. Contrary to all Christianism, the Israel of the Bible is not now, nor ever has been, the Jews. The Scriptures make a definite distinction between Jews and Israel, and this fact is shown from an abundance of biblical references contained in other messages such as Jews ain't Israel, the great deception, and who is Israel. This subject will be not addressed here, so don't be confused when the name Israel is used, because it has nothing to do with Jews. Even though Abraham had a total of 8 sons, the term Israel only pertains to a particular people who are the descendants of Abraham through Isaac, the father of Jacob Israel. There were 2 sons of Jacob Israel, which would become the king and priest lines. The descendant of Judah, David, would be the king line, and the descendant of Levi, Aaron, would be the priest line. These 2 lines and titles remain separate throughout the Old Testament, but pay attention to the covenants that Yahweh made with David and Levi in Jeremiah 33:17 through 21. For thus saith Yahweh, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Israel, neither shall the priests, the Levites, want a man before me, to offer burnt offerings, and to kindle meat offerings, and to do sacrifice continually. And the word of Yahweh came unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus saith Yahweh, If you can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, and that there should not be day and night in their seasons, then may also my covenant be broken with David my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon the throne, and with the Levites the priests my ministers. According to this, David and Levi shall never want for a man. It did not say men, but is alluding to the man who would fill both roles, king and priest. This union is referred to in a New Testament verse which says, "For to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace." Ephesians 2:15. The light of revelation grows in brightness with what King David said about this united order in Psalms 110, which is the only other time the name Melchizedek appears in the Old Testament. David well understood the covenants that Yahweh made with him, one of which was referred to in Jeremiah 33:17 through 21. In Psalms 110, David prophesies of Christ. Yahweh said unto my Lord, Yahweh Christ, "Sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool." Yahweh has sworn and will not repent. Thou, Yahweh Christ, art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Psalms 110, 1 and 4. It was David, a man after God's own heart, that Yahweh revealed the great mystery of the order of Melchizedek, which unites the kingship and priesthood. Abraham saw it in Genesis 14:18 through 20, and Jesus, Yahweh, refers to this in John 8:56. Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Isaiah also spoke of this united order, prophesying about the coming Christ. "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David, and upon his kingdom, to order it, and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of Yahweh of hosts will perform this." Isaiah 9:6 through 7. It is Jesus, Yahweh, that would be King of righteousness, justice, and Salem, peace. It is Jesus, Yahweh, that is the faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, Hebrews 2:17, and the great high priest that is passed into heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, Hebrews 4:14. Here is a shocker. Jesus' ancestry will never be found in any of the Bible's genealogies. How then can his ancestry be traced back to David and Levi in order to fulfill the prophecy of Jeremiah 33:17 through 21? Where can his lineage be found? It is in the Bible, but not in any of the genealogies. The message, Elijah was John, goes into Jesus' heritage in great detail, and it will only be briefly touched upon here. Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist, was a descendant of the priesthood line within the tribe of Levi, for she was of the daughters of Aaron. Luke 1:5. According to biblical law, being a daughter of Aaron necessitates that both parents of Elizabeth must be of the Aaronic line. The angel Gabriel tells Jesus' mother Mary, "Behold, thy cousin Elizabeth, she hath also conceived a son in her old age." Luke 1:36. Since Elizabeth and Mary are cousins, then Mary's father and our mother would be of the Aaronic line also. This not only links Jesus back to Levi, but also to the Aaron priest line within that tribe. Now, what about Jesus being the descendant of David? Paul says, "Remember that Jesus Christ of the seed of David was raised from the dead according to my gospel." 2 Timothy 2:8. The Apostle John says, "And one of the elders saith unto me, Weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals thereof." Revelation 5:5. Who is this Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David? In the next 4 verses it says that this is the Lamb, and in Revelation 17:14 that he is Lord of lords and King of kings. Now, John the Baptist, looking upon Jesus as he walked, he saith, "Behold the Lamb of God." John 1:36. It is Jesus that is the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, the Lamb, Lord of lords and King of kings, and the seed of David. Not only is this the testimony of men and angels, but also of the anointed Yahweh himself. I, Jesus, have sent mine angels to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. Revelation 22:16. It is Jesus, Yahweh, who is both the king descended from David and the high priest descended from Aaron. He is truly of the order of Melchizedek, the ruler king of righteousness and peace, priest of Yahweh, and did not have a beginning of days nor end of life. John 17:5 and Acts 1:1-9. There is only one place in the New Testament where the order of Melchizedek is ever mentioned, and it is in the book of Hebrews. Take time to read Hebrews 6:20 through 7:21, and the following are a few verses from this. As he saith also in another place, Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, called of God and high priest after the order of Melchizedek, whither the forerunner is for us entered, even Jesus, made an high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, for this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings, and blessed him. For he, Levi, was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him, Abraham. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, What further need was there that another priest should arise after the order of Melchizedek, and not be called after the order of Aaron? And it is yet far more evident, for that after the similitude of Melchizedek there ariseth another priest. For he testifieth, Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek. Hebrews 5, 6, 10, 6, 20, 7, 1, 10 through 11, 15, and 17. The king-priest order of Melchizedek was established before the Levitical Aaronic priesthood and the Davidical kingship, and yet all of this points directly to Jesus, Yahweh Christ, the anointed Messiah. Not only did Abraham see this day, but also the prophets and David. 2,000 years ago, the people wanted Jesus to be king and reestablish the kingdom of Israel. They were not thinking about a priest to offer sacrifice. From the crucifixion till today, all focus has shifted to the priestly sacrificial role of Jesus. Christianity is fixated with the cross. No one is looking for the king with a sharp sword and a rod of iron, who will break in pieces the nations and be Lord of lords and King of kings. Christ has been banished from all things pertaining to government and relegated to the religious auspices of the church. Christians proclaim separation of church and state while singing, "All were Christian soldiers," and never see the contradiction. When the Bible was translated, a kingdom was a government, and the king was its absolute ruler. Yahweh's government will come into earth, Matthew 6, 9 through 10, and Yahweh will be the king, ruler of it. Jesus, Yahweh Christ, the anointed Messiah, is of the king-priest order of Melchizedek. But is he the only one? The word order is not singular in scope or meaning. Are there others in this order? Yes, according to the Bible. John to the 7 churches which are in Asia. Grace be unto you, and peace from him which is, and which was, and which is to come, and from the 7 spirits which are before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, who is the faithful witness and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and hath made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Revelation 1, 4 through 6. The church spoken of in this verse is not a building, something attended, or anything that can be joined. To understand what the Bible says the church is, then go to the message, what is the church? It is Jesus Yahweh that hath made us kings and priests. The hath is past tense, even though this appears in Revelation. The us is the Elohim, who have been chosen to administer the government of Yahweh in earth. This divine selection was done before Elohim ever came into earth, and their pre-existence is spoken of by Jesus, John 17:6, when he says to Yahweh, "Thine they were." When? When they were with him in heaven, just as Christ was, John 17:5, 14, and 16. Yahweh took his children out of himself, gave them names, and wrote them in the book of life before the foundation of the world, Revelation 13:8 and 17:8. Now, can the following be understood? For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Moreover, whom he did predestinate, them he also called, and whom he called, them he also justified, and whom he justified, them he also glorified. Romans 8:29 through 30. The foreknown predestinated Elohim are to be of that same king priest order of Melchizedek. Ye also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house, and holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. 1 Peter 2:5 and 9. The word translated royal in this passage is the Greek word meaning king. Now, to who is Peter writing? These are the elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father. 1 Peter 1:2. The maturing Elohim will feel this truth vibrating within their spirit. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. Romans 8:16 through 17. Being heirs of Yahweh, joint heirs with Christ, brings the conformity into that same image, the king priest order of Melchizedek. Yahweh Shua has made us unto our God kings and priests. We shall reign on the earth. Revelation 5:10. It is this king priest order of Melchizedek that shall reign on the earth, which is also spoken of in Revelation 26. The king priest order of Melchizedek is made up of Yahweh and his brethren Elohim, who will reign in righteousness, and this will establish peace in the creation, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. Romans 8:21. When will this happen? According to Romans 8:19, it will be when the Elohim who have grown up and matured into the adult sons of Yahweh are manifested. These Elohim are the lords and kings, of which Yahweh is the head, the Lord of lords and the King of kings. These Elohim are priests unto Yahweh, who enter into his holy presence. These Elohim are placed into the king priest order of Melchizedek to administer Yahweh's kingdom government in earth as it is in heaven. Language fails to convey the glories which are for these Elohim, in whose spirit this message reverberates. The worsening conditions of this age will perfect the Elohim chosen for this most sacred order. It is during this time that they nobly arise, lifting up the sacrifice of praise unto their Father Yahweh. We are more than a band of brothers with Yahweh Shua. We are of the most exalted order, which is without beginning of days, nor end of life. All Elohim of this royal holy order, you are more precious to your Father than all his creation. He's chosen you to reign and rule it. He is perfecting you to do this in righteousness. He is transforming you from glory to glory. He has begun a good work in you, and he will finish it. He is in control of all things, and you will not miss it or mess it up, for Yahweh God omnipotent reigneth. Bless his name, for he is Yahweh, the only true God. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him, for he has predestinated you to be king priest of the Order of Melchizedek.
This message is produced by truthfromgod.com, which is one of hundreds of messages that can be read, heard, and watched at truthfromgod.com.